This podcast is rated PG-13. Parents strongly cautioned. Some material may be inappropriate for children under 13.
So back to Interstellar Part 2. John's got a little book corner here with, what's his name? Rip Torn?
Rip Thomas.
Rip Thomas?
A Nobel Prize winning physicist.
Wait, what's his real name?
Kip Thorne.
Kip Thorne, okay. Not Rip Torn.
Kippy Thorne. Kipton
Very
Thorne.
close.
I don't know what you call it. Kip. His name is Kip.
American theoretical physicist.
Yep. Quite, a legitimate, established, respectable physicist. So I might give away some of your trivia here in this part because actually I didn't read a lot of this book. I sort of skimmed it like I always do.
You don't even have to tell us that anymore, John. It's
the
the only way you read things. Yeah.
Basically, what I need to do is say if I actually have really read something, I'll really just call that out, and then we can just assume otherwise I'm skimming it best.
Yeah.
And so the thing that's interesting is just what a role he played as like this was his idea. Carl Sagan had set him up on this blind date with Linda Obst. She was trying to break in the movie business at the time by formulating the concepts for a movie called Flashdance.
Ooh.
So she ended up doing quite well, but they ended up not working out as a couple, but they ended up working out. Kip wanted to make this hard science fiction movie and have it all be based in real physics and have a lot of spectacular stuff that was all like explainable by science. And Linda really liked that idea too. And she ended up doing a lot of other films as a producer. The Fisher King, Contact, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, whatever. But
pretty
so
varied.
she was doing quite well. So Linda and Kip were trying to make this movie work because they really wanted to do this. So Linda also had the idea originally, according to Kip, that she had this idea. She wanted it for a science fiction movie, and she wanted him to flesh it out. In the next four months, they like flushed out the dinner. Over dinner and emails. They wanted to have this vision of the film with wormholes, black holes, gravitational waves, a universe with 5 dimensions, and humans encounters with higher dimensional creatures.
Normal stuff, typical, easy to explain stuff in a movie.
Right, but they want it grounded in real science. That was the vision for the film, right, that they had. And then they got a very famous director interested by the name of Steven Spielberg.
That's Steven
right.
Spielberg riding in his Triceratops coming.
That's right. Imagine if he had done this film. It would have gone in maybe quite different directions. Maybe.
He did, yeah. I don't know, because he did that one with Haley Joe Osment or whatever, the robot kid, and that was medium. AI.
That's true. AI was weird. That was so. That movie was so hyped.
Yeah.
At the time,
because it was Kubrick, Spielberg, kind of a he handed off the torch.
Right. He did because that was Kubrick was working on it. Right. I don't even know the story there.
Yeah, I know Kubrick worked on it for a bit and then handed it over to Spielberg for some reason.
Because he was dying or what? I don't know. Right.
It wasn't because he made Eyes Wide Shut and then died like 2 weeks after that movie was finished editing.
Right, but he might have been like on the decline or something at that point.
Maybe.
I mean,
could have been like a passion project for like a long period of time or something. Who knows?
Yeah. So they did a lot of workshopping too with Steven and then Jonathan Nolan, as a screenwriter, came on board on and off too for various reasons because they had a writer's strike at that time. That was in 2007 when the Writers Guild went on strike.
So how's he working? Are you not supposed to work?
He was forbidden to work, so he disappeared. He started working on it, and then he didn't work on it. So he didn't work on the film anymore. He had to drop. He just dropped out working on the film because of all that. Then, I mean, again, it's just like up and down for them. They're like, oh, we got Spielberg. And then it also turned out that Interstellar was going to be hugely expensive. And Steven had told them that there were very few directors with whom Paramount would entrust a movie of this magnitude. So even it sounds like in between the lines that maybe they didn't even trust Spielberg to do this. Spielberg wasn't going to be able to do this, pull it off, which is odd. At the time, but Spielberg wasn't in his height anymore. I guess
makes sense.
Too,
he made a couple of big duds right before,
right?
Around 2014, wasn't that around when Tintin came out? I don't know.
Yeah, right. So I don't know. They're like we're not going to trust you with that.
Yeah. Well, I just like Tintin.
Yeah. So you're blinded by your Tintin fandom. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So then they got Christopher Nolan. involved, but it took like another like 2.5 years before they finally got that. And it took like this negotiation too between Paramount and Warner Brothers. It was a very complex deal that was struck between the two studios to end up making this movie. And so that's how that was like sort of the sort of torturous story of how the film got made, which is more at the front of the book. So I read more of that. I tried to read again. The movie or the book rather is praises the movie effusively throughout. And Christopher Nolan, it's just it's such a wonderful thing. It's like and you'll say really really annoying things like, well, and if you would watch the movie again in parentheses, and why wouldn't you? Yeah, blah, 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 sort of things. Just like very, very, very pleased with the film.
Well, you did buy the book, John, so it assumes you're a fan, right?
Who
else is buying the book besides a fan?
That's a good point.
It did get some
and
good
you keep
reviews.
making these people money, the fucking farther
they love
up their
it.
ass
They'll
they
keep
go.
raking it in. They're not complaining over it.
I know. Yeah, it was a big mistake. So I did try to read it, and I did sort of scan sort of the other sections where they try to explain the different things that happens, and again, basically what Kipple ended up doing, saying he says that again, a lot of the physics stuff, he will say on one hand that it does stick to science, but then Christopher Nolan and Joel, what's his name, his brother, Jonathan sort of like made up some of their own rules, but tried to stick to some ideas of science and stuff. And he goes in and explain like the whole Tesseract thing, like this 4-dimensional cube that McConaughey's in when he's in like sort of able to see like Murph's room all at once, which, oh, by the way, yeah, we named you Murph after Murphy's Law. Who the fuck names their kid after Murphy's Law? Okay, fine. Whatever.
Scientists, John.
Yeah. Come on,
right.
Dude.
We named
engineers, duh.
Yeah. We named you after the thing that everybody talks about when the worst stuff has happened. That's what we're naming you. Great. Anyway, so they do go into some of the physics stuff and the black hole stuff, and that's pretty interesting. One of the quotes too, like he does kind of a nice overview of the universe and where it started and everything. And it's always fun to read the Big Bang was named by somebody who thought it was ludicrous. So he called it the Big Bang as a joke because he was making fun of it, but that's the name that stuck, which is great. Again, it's also now it's not nearly as controversial as it was initially or seen as like a ludicrous idea. So Matthew McConaughey is really wonderful, apparently. So is Anne Hathaway. Everybody's wonderful. Christopher Nolan is the most brilliant person ever.
Guy wants to work with him again. He wants more money. He saw how much money he can make with these movies, and he's like, let me write you another one, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Interstellar 2, let's go.
Yeah. Oh, anyway, so Fred Hoyle was the guy that in the 40s called it the Big Bang because he thought it was just outrageous. It was just this real, and again, he was a cosmetologist. He was a cosmologist, not a cosmetologist. Fuck me. He was
putting on his makeup there.
That's right. Do your hair, and I'm going to comment on the universe.
Yeah, we're going to send a video over the airwaves.
That's right. So anyway, that's all I got for Book Corner. Let's move on to your trivia.
Nice.
All right.
Yes, thank you.
What are we going to learn now, Denny?
So
Which kind of science you got for us?
This is science-based. It is science-based.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there was
what
a
science you got for us?
documentary narrated by Matthew McConaughey called The Science of Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey. There's no science I've trusted less than having Matthew McConaughey tell me about it. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, right.
Seriously. He's like, his voice is so laid back and he's got that weird little whistly-ass thing that goes on.
Right.
I don't
and
trust
he
this guy.
whispers kind of.
Yeah, he's whispering and you're like, I feel like he's trying to sell me something. I don't know. But something I didn't know, and Naomi was like, you didn't know this? But I always thought that like the relativity, the theory of relativity can be measured in ways in space, but I didn't know that it was like used in ways on Earth. Like one of the things they said was that the satellite's clocks tick faster by 38 microseconds each day. And they have to because they're traveling faster through time. And it's actually that measurable, that close to Earth. And I didn't know it was like that. I mean, that 38 microseconds a day is like not that much, but it's
nothing.
It's definitely something.
But it's real. It's like, this whole relativity thing. Oh yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I mean, the astronauts that go out there, they're aging differently.
Mm-hmm. They come back like, a couple seconds older or younger. I guess they would be
right.
younger
it's smaller, but
the time ticks faster. So the faster you move, the faster time moves. That's the whole idea for everything else. That the idea.
I don't know.
Couldn't tell you.
Oh wait, no. Well, I think it varies. I don't know how that all works.
So your life will be the longest if you don't move at all. That's what they also said. So if you sit down and you live the same amount as if you ran around all the time, you would live a little bit longer in the sitting down version of your life. Good to know, right? So what we're doing right now, sitting down, not moving, this is for the benefit of our lives.
We're losing time from our lives. Yeah.
We're doing nothing productive, so it's actually bad.
So we are actually aging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not great.
We're going to finish this older than we were before, and also older than we will be tomorrow.
Wait, what?
Because this is Interstellar.
This is the end. We're finding the wormhole today.
Yeah. Look, I put a hole through a paper. It all makes sense.
Negative energy is negative mass. And that exists. And we've created it on Earth, which is crazy.
Right.
Did you know that, John?
What's that now? Sorry. I was just looking up the time dilation. Actually, it seems to be like it's about like perceived motion, and the thing that's moving compared to the thing that's not moving will be actually seen as moving slower. So the thing that's moving actually moves slower. That's why, like, as they're moving, accelerating, McConaughey is not aging as rapidly as, say, his daughter, who's not.
But he's moving around faster.
Right. So then so he ages slower, relatively speaking.
Right, but it moves you forward faster in time.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're moving. I see. It's like you have to think about that. Okay, that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're thinking about, so time is moving itself. Okay,
so that
sorry.
Satellite's
I wish I had this much time back.
Right.
I'll tell you that much.
That satellite's going to outlive us all, John, is what we're talking about here.
Yeah, anyway, go on.
Negative energy, that exists. It's the same thing as negative mass, and they've created it on Earth in labs and stuff. And you need that to create wormholes. Wormholes are, we've never seen them. They're questionable. None of the scientists will say they can't happen, but none of them say they definitely do happen. Most of them are somewhat skeptical. It seems like that they could exist or that they do actually exist. There's just not enough information right now. But they all agree that if they did exist, they would need a bunch of negative energy to hold them open. I guess all of this is based on some equations that Einstein came up with. They kept saying Einstein for a lot of this stuff. And I guess Einstein is the guy who came up with the idea of a wormhole, or at least popularized it. But need negative energy to keep a wormhole open, guys, just in case you're in space and they're asking you to do math on the fly, like in this movie.
Okay. So they just get a lot of, they get a lot of really, really jerky people around.
Yeah, just all like it's fucking assholes.
Just real assholes
hissing at you. Yeah. And like, fuck you.
It's like how you power a wormhole. You just gotta.
Yeah, right.
You get the concert attendees of a Korn concert and you put them in space and bam,
that's right. A wormhole. Yeah, there you go.
Actually, yeah.
Right? Insane Clown Posse. We're up there with the fucking face paint.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
You know what? That's actually that's what the fascists are really doing. It's all powered by physicists. They're all like just trying to get enough negative energy.
Oh, they're trying to save us all.
Open up a wormhole.
That's
right.
Wow.
That's a good B movie plot. I think we shouldn't publish
trying
this.
To save us all.
Save that idea. The fascists are trying to save us through wormhole science.
Yeah, right.
And think of the sacrifice they're making because everybody else hates them.
Yeah, and they can't tell us, otherwise we wouldn't get as angry, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
See?
They're just harvesting our negative energy, man.
This thing writes itself.
There would be 4 million times more mass that our sun has at the center of the Milky Way galaxy in the black hole that we have at the center of the galaxy. Our sun times 4 million is the density of the black hole that the Milky Way has.
In a much smaller spot, right?
Huh. I actually don't know if it's smaller or not. It's just like a sun, right? It's just a sun that is super. I thought it was big.
Doesn't it get like condensed too? I don't know.
When a sun dies, it condenses, but the center of a galaxy, is that a sun? I don't know. Do you know? I don't know. Yeah, Kip did a lot of math to try to accurately represent all of the things that happened in this movie, like the images of what a wormhole would look like was all thought through with actual math and how it would like distort what was behind it and all that stuff. Same thing with the black hole. There was it's all kind of made up math, but there was math backing it all up, and he would actually give the math to someone who could translate it to a visual artist, and then that person would there was like an intermediary between the equations and the people making the CG graphics of what it was supposed to look like. And then they showed it to him and he was like amazed at exactly like what he expected, sort of thing.
What, the disco ball, but see-through?
Yeah. See-through disco ball.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. It's a lot of Hollywood bullshit for just put some fucking sphere in there that glows.
It's cool. Yeah, come on. It is cool
Right.
that they're trying to physically like represent what they thought it would look like.
No, and
I
of
don't know.
course,
I think it's
only in
cool.
Hollywood would you end up with just a sphere that looks translucent.
That's what it's supposed to look like, though. They justify it. It's supposed to be a sphere.
No, I know, but it's just it's a little underwhelming.
This documentary was made back in 2015, and they were still talking about how all the scientists in the world were attempting to measure gravitational fields. It was a pipe dream. And I thought that was cool because I saw very recently, we have successfully measured gravitational fields.
Oh, wow.
In the past 2
nice.
months. Yay. What's that going to do? Are we one step closer to finding Anne Hathaway? If Anne Hathaway was in another dimension stuck on a planet, would you save her? Throw that
I'd
one
leave her behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No more Princess Diaries for us. That's a risk I'm
I'd
willing
send
to
her a
take.
video and say, it's just too far and we're not coming.
And you were bad in
yeah.
Princess Diaries. I'm sorry.
Look, the data that you decided to kill the other guy for meant nothing to us, and we no longer need you.
And I know we're not in a movie, but your acting in real life is just terrible. I can't. I can't take you seriously.
Right. No.
All right. Then there was a bunch of featurettes called Inside Interstellar. There's probably like 15 of them.
Oh, wow.
They made all the tech what we have now for the sake of being one, realistic, and two, removing any type of creative portion in that. They wanted to like save time for the departments, just be like, we don't want creatives to waste time designing things. Let's just go to NASA. And they actually talked with Elon Musk a lot back when they were making this movie, just to kind of rip off the spaceship and spacesuit ideas for this. Because they wanted to make it look real. They wanted to make it look like timeless, and they didn't want to waste the resources.
And they
to
didn't
be
want to
creative.
get artsy.
Artsy,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Hoyte van Hoytema, the cinematographer, sweetest name ever, and I'm probably mispronouncing it, but his first name is Hoyte.
Yeah, nice.
He had he built a rig. He's kind of a big guy, and he built a rig and put an IMAX camera on it and shoulder mounted an IMAX camera for a lot of this movie. They built like real scale sets, like all the inside spaceship stuff was real spaceship stuff. You can't put IMAX cameras in enclosed spaces like that because they're huge, but they did because he figured out a way to carry it around on his shoulder. So big, strong guy, just a piece of plywood on his shoulder and 2 metal bars and an IMAX camera just lugging it around.
Holy shit. Huh?
Let's see here. Oh, he died in 2012 from kidney failure.
Did he?
No,
Wow.
I'm just making shit up.
Oh, geez.
Oh, wow. That was
No,
brutal.
I was gonna
What?
say, he did,
Oh,
like-
my God, John. I guess that's all you can do with this kind of
He
movie.
did Nope recently, I think.
Did he do nope?
I think
Nice,
so.
good for him. I mean,
he's
yeah,
doing great.
he must have gotten a transplant.
Brain transplant. It's still Hoyte.
No, kidney transplant.
But there were scenes like
Anyway.
this movie is a huge budget movie, and there are scenes where they're doing like the ship going through the black hole, and he's sitting like it's Matthew and like Anne Hathaway in the front spaceship seats. He's right behind them with this shoulder rig on, bouncing his knees up and down with his elbows on his knees to shake the camera. And that's the effect they're doing in this huge budget movie.
Oh man, doing the shaky cam with an IMAX camera.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Manually. Yeah. Pretty sweet.
cool. Right.
They found the landscape for the farm. It was Calgary, Canada, and it was a farmland, but they didn't grow corn there because it's too cold and the sun doesn't shine enough there or whatever. But they figured they'd try to make it work because apparently in a Superman movie made like a couple years before, they built a cornfield for that movie, and Christopher Nolan learned you could make a cornfield for a movie. So they built the farm, they built the roads, they built the silos, they planted corn for this set, and then it grew. And they made a deal with the state or the country, whatever, need to make a deal with. They sold all the corn.
Good info.
They ended up selling the corn to the Canadian government or whatever and made a profit
Oh, nice.
on that entire set.
Nice.
Get some of the budget back.
It's pretty sweet.
I love that.
And feed
That's-
people. Why not?
That's
Yeah,
pretty
nice.
cool. I mean, that's when you really, those are the moments where Hollywood is a good thing.
Yeah, very rarely you give people
Very
corn.
rarely, but like the fact that they can create an ecosystem.
Oh yeah,
is pretty
they're up on
impressive.
like the biggest glacier in Europe, and they're digging into it to build the set for the ice planet. But they're giving corn to people in Canada, so it kind of evens itself
Hey.
out.
All right, yeah.
They hid real propane tanks and diesel tanks for the fires. All that fire was real. The propane tanks were used for the flames, and the diesel tanks were used for the black smoke.
Huh.
All that was planned. They had, when they were doing the through the corn chase scenes, the corn was so high, it was like 8 or 9 feet tall that the stunt drivers couldn't see shit. So they had a helicopter pilot that was there for like the drone scenes. So they kept him for that. And there was a helicopter flying over the stunt car, directing the stunt driver where to turn and how fast to go.
Damn.
Nice.
So that's pretty sweet.
That is.
Kind of, it seems like unnecessary. Just drive it straight. But, you know, he's turning left,
I
he's turning
guess so.
right.
Yeah.
Just get a little GPS thing in there going, get your little Apple Maps, and you're probably going to be all right.
We already got the
Yeah,
helicopter.
there's nothing there, right? It's just corn. You know it. Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows how much of that scene they cut out? Maybe they had bigger ideas for it. Most of the dust was real. They had huge amounts. They like the quantities and sizes of the fans they had in this movie were plenty. This shot where they're driving down the town and the dust storm is chasing them, they hid the fans behind all the buildings and they like sequenced them to turn on to make it look like the thing was chasing
that must
them.
have sucked for the actors.
They had a giant ass flatbed truck full of fans driving in front of the truck for the interior shots. So they were just like caking these people. It was actually like a food product they were using as dust that shows up pretty good. So like you can get it in your eyes and stuff and it bothers you, but
actually
doesn't
does
like
suck.
hurt you.
Yeah,
It's
right.
an actual dirt.
Is an actual dirt, but they were using real dirt. So like it was the behind the scenes shot of that part was like, wow, these days would have sucked for everyone. Yeah. Tars was a puppet. I'd look up how they did it. It's pretty simplistic and kind of funny how stupid it looks, but I wasn't thinking that Tars was a puppet in the way that it is.
I thought it was just CG.
Yeah,
mostly.
me too. Like good CG.
So that'd be really
right?
really easy to do CG with everything's just rectangles. It's not going to be too hard.
But it would have looked bad, I think.
Yeah, it would have. So I mean, they don't have the puppet doesn't actually do the acrobats, does it?
It does. They actually built, so there's
really?
different puppets. They had different puppets for each what they called gags. So they had the walking puppet, which was the majority of it. But then they actually built the spinny, the one where it spins out into like a cartwheel and does like the rolly thing. They plugged that into the side of like a motorcycle and they drove it and then painted out the motorcycle. Same thing with the running. They had it on the front of a truck.
So and I'm looking at pictures. That's really also why you don't get like full shots of a rectangle robot, because if you took it straight from the side, you just see a guy right behind it.
Yeah, right.
Right. I mean, again, I guess they could digitize that out, but
the back is nothing. It's just empty holes, basically.
Right.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's why all those shots of the robot, you're just seeing edges off of your glimpses, and you're never. Yeah.
But it was surprising. Even like, all the weird stuff he's doing is also practical. They tried to do all the stuff practical in this movie, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah. Definitely an extra mile.
That water planet is a real place.
Oh?
It is in Iceland. It's a delta way out in the middle of nowhere in Iceland. And apparently it's just big flat area with like a foot of water in it all the way to the horizon. So they filmed there. What they did is they I don't know if they have these trucks by default, but they had these trucks that had like 6 foot tall tires. Like they were big wheels basically, or like monster trucks. They had monster trucks in the water so they could drive all the shit there. They built roads. What was it, like 100? It was 50 kilometers to this area from any civilization whatsoever. So they built a road for these big trucks, and then they could drive the trucks into the water and park them in this huge, like flat water area. And they filmed there for weeks for all this water scene stuff. And the water was freezing. First day of Anne Hathaway's shoot was at this place, and her suit had a hole in it. And the first time she fell in the water, her entire body was covered in freezing cold water, and she didn't complain because it was her first day on the set, and she got a little sick.
Wow.
Yeah, actors really do it for us, guys. They really try.
I know.
They work really
They do
hard.
their best.
They do.
Yeah. They earn those millions.
Christopher Nolan didn't want Hans Zimmer to know very much about this plot at all. He didn't know it was a sci-fi story. Hans was given a single-page summary of the plot about a father-son relationship. And that's all he had to go on to create kind of a theme for it. They also talked about instruments they didn't want. They didn't want strings or heavy drums. They basically wanted to do something that was, totally different. So they found, organ was an option. They found this amazing organ player somewhere. He sounded like British, but they didn't mention where he was. But Hans didn't play the organ in this. He wrote the music, but this organ player played the organ. This like one specific organ that the guy, I think he's like the caretaker of it. He was amazing at it. Just this like older guy who you can tell he just sits there every waking day of his life just playing this thing because he loves the sound of it. So he played all that stuff. Spacesuit was 35 pounds. They had ice water pumped through it because it got really hot in there for the actors. That's something they do for the astronauts too. They recorded all the voices in the spacesuits in the helmet themselves to get, it's cheap that way and it sounds realistic. And also, when you're using an IMAX camera, that shit is loud. So if you have a microphone in a helmet, you can still use the audio on set, even with the loud camera going on. The Endurance spaceship they built, 160 feet long. They built it on rigs that rotated. They built 3 sections. So the overall spaceship had, I think, 12 or 14 sections. And they built 3 that could rotate. So it kind of swung like one of those big ship rides you get at the fairs or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like that. They had the virtual production screens on all the sides that could spin to make the planets look like that. So all the special effects from inside the spaceship were real as well. Save for like the hand warping and stuff. Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty cool, isn't it? You don't even notice.
You don't. I mean, it looks really good, but I assumed a lot of it was CG, right?
Right. And now they don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. Which, I mean, they still kind of do because it still all kind of looks like shit still. This looked really good. And I guess that's
because
why.
they can because they can key off it. So like when the camera moves, the perspective on the video wall moves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like linked on ingest, right? Like when you're recording the camera, you're getting the real movements and it's all mapped out.
Get it close, but it still looks kind of odd.
Yeah. I mean, you got to factor in a lot of stuff. So I'm sure it's just as hard to make it look good as it is, especially then. Yeah. Now I'm sure it's easier.
So they filmed the largest glacier in Europe. All the ash, like the black, it's not like clean looking ice. It was kind of black looking ice. It was because a volcano recently exploded there. And they thought that would be an issue because the idea during production was that it would be like a clean ice planet like you're used to seeing. But they kind of talked themselves into liking the idea of a dirty planet because it was kind of a little sadder, I guess. A little more desolate, a little less livable, sort of. But that's just how that place looks. Covered in ice, covered in ash. Great place to live. The wind up in Iceland is very strong, so a lot of the time they had to quit shooting and leave the place they were shooting. But Christopher Nolan doesn't like not shooting, so they ended up building a partial set in a parking lot in Iceland somewhere, and some of the shots in this movie are in a parking lot in Iceland.
Cool.
Spaceship, they built large models out of styrofoam. They sculpt them with hot wires. They built them for all the outside shots for like when the spaceship is landing in the water planet. That's just a real model they have on a crane that they craned out to this delta area, and they're lowering it down and painting out the wires. And once they were done with all those exterior shots, they were like, hey, we have this giant spaceship. Let's put it on this gimbal that we have and then attach a bunch of cameras, a couple of IMAX cameras and a couple of GoPros to this thing and just move it around with different lighting. And then there are your insert shots, John, that you thought were kind of, unnecessary. But it was kind of like, it was them saying, hey, we have a little extra time and we have a bunch of space and a gimbal and this model that we built. Let's try to work in some extra shots here. Because why not?
I guess so.
That's what Nolan did.
It's all about having fun.
Yep. And they said they shipped it back to LA. How do you ship a giant spaceship from Iceland to LA?
On a boat?
Big ass foam, so it's ridiculously light.
Fragile, but also fragile, right?
But also fragile. I don't know.
They
either.
Probably put it in a sea container or whatever. Yeah. I don't know. Got to be a boat.
Yeah. So ship it to like the East Coast and then throw it on a train, maybe.
Who knows?
It was pretty big though. Yeah. I don't know. They built a miniature for the Endurance, 1/15th scale, and they filmed a lot of it on that. They used very bright lights, and they had to, 3 to 4 frames a second just to get all the details with the high contrast lighting. I don't know how cameras work, but that's intense, I guess. That's kind of the same tactic that Kubrick used in 2001. Hard lighting, very long exposures, that sort of thing. They got 4 shots a day on models, which is fast, is what they said. I'm just repeating shit they said. I have no idea how long this shit's supposed to take. All the explosions were done on miniatures, filmed fast, so that it came back in slow motion. So like when Matt Damon blew up that thing, that was an actual explosion they did on the miniature. For the 0G stuff, they built, so they had the sets that everyone could stand in, they filmed normally, but then they built those same sets. They built like the top and the bottom half, like the left and right side, and they turned them 90 degrees. So one of them is facing straight up in the air, and the other one is also facing straight up in the air. So you'd have people with harnesses on their chest with a wire coming straight out of their chest, and you would film them from underneath, which would be their backside.
Oh, so you see them float.
So you'd see them float, and they would be pulling you up with this harness, and they would get good at maneuvering to make it look like they were floating through the spaceship when it was really just them being filled from the bottom,
like pulled up.
being pulled up.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So that was
Makes
one way they
sense.
did weightlessness, and the other way was that they had this thing that they would strap you. They called it like it was a forceps on your hips. They would strap you into.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
No, it was pretty uncomfortable, and they would be counterweighted. So you were on this movable forceps thing that was counterweighted with a bunch of bricks that were customized for your specifications because all the actors had to do this. So then what you had to do is you kind of were able to like flail around by the waist, and it was a lot of ab workout. And the hardest part about that was that you needed to make it so your face looked calm. Like when you're in space, you're floating, but all these actors are like, doing an ab workout, but looking calm because they're not supposed to be like flexing their abs
like
and
they're
stuff.
like,
Yeah.
right.
That's how they did all that stuff. The Tesseract was an actual set.
Huh.
They built that thing. Some of it CG, but there was a huge Tesseract set. When Matthew McConaughey was floating around in there, he was also on a harness for hours on end, for days, floating around, punching books, saying hi to Murph, all that good stuff.
Hi, Murph.
Yeah, Jessica Chastain had to sit inside the room all day. That's all I got.
All right.
Nice.
All right, would you put in the top 250 again? No. Is this going to be the highest rated movie that we say no to?
Possibly.
Maybe.
We're getting pretty close.
See. That's a good. I think.
Maybe not. With me around, you never know.
That's true.
We'll have to revisit that as we keep climbing.
We still got Lord of the Rings, all three of them in the future.
God,
That's right. That's right.
Jesus Christ.
We still got Life is Beautiful coming up. I think it's coming up real soon, actually.
Oh no! Anything else we can go see?
Yeah, it's Halloween time, guys.
All right, we're about to start our October extravaganza.
Yay! It's the best time of year.
Okay.
It's the year where the fat man comes down the chimney. Is that right?
And gets stuck and dies. That's Gremlins.
No, that's Tim Allen's Santa Claus, isn't it? He
no,
kills Santa Claus.
Maybe that too. I just remember from Gremlins, like the girl that was like, I don't know, she doesn't like Christmas because her dad died coming down the chimney, broke his neck. That's right. It was kind of it's sort of like a one of those first date things that are awkward when you learn that about the person. It's a good movie. Gremlins. Let's watch that sometime.
A real sentence?
Sure.
I know.
So I got 4 movies this year, guys, for Halloween month.
What are we doing?
We starting on that right now? Is that what's next
That's
week?
what we're doing. Yeah, this is a 2-parter, and then the next episode's coming out in October. So we're here. And we're doing it.
All right. Let's go.
There's
what
only
are we doing
4
first? What do you got
Mondays
for
in
us? What's on the menu?
So I'm going to give you guys a bit of, there's 5 Mondays in October. Damn it. So maybe we do the list next week, and then...
What's next?
What is next? I didn't look this up because I didn't realize there were 5 Mondays in October.
Well, we can do 5 horror films.
Would you guys want to do 5 horror films? Seems like seems like a tall order.
Not particularly.
I don't really want
Would
to go
you
back
rather
to
watch
the list
Casablanca?
Oh no. All right, so we're doing 5 horror films.
So the answer of are we going to put another one not in the top 250? The answer is yes.
Oh, it's not Casablanca. I'll tell you that much.
Come on.
Fuck.
All right, so what horror films are we watching now?
Let's do Casablanca. It's the scariest movie you'll ever see. Let's get it over with, and then we'll have fun for a month. How about that?
All right.
Okay, fine. We'll do Casablanca. Let's go.
Let's get
Casablanca. Oh, shoot me dead. Oh, fuck.
John's up next week.
It's going to be fine.
It's going to be fine.
All right.
Be fine. You'll be all right.
All right.
All right. Talk to you guys next week.
All right, guys. I'll talk to you next week.
Stop